Imagine you are watching the World Cup final. 90 minutes of football, the best players on earth, the biggest stage in sport, the most watched event in human history. Now imagine that the man standing on that pitch, just by being there, just by playing those 90 minutes, earns more money than most people will make in the next 10 years of their lives. That is not an exaggeration. That is Cristiano Ronaldo's reality in 2026. He earns approximately $426 every single minute, asleep, awake, on the pitch, off it, every single minute. And the question that most people never actually get answered is not whether this is fair. The question is, how did the economics of football get here? Because the answer is not what you think. And once you understand it, you will never watch a football match the same way again. Football player salaries are not an accident. They are not the result of greed or luck or one person deciding that a man who kicks a ball deserves $200 million a year. They are the output of an economic system, a system built on one foundational principle: attention. Specifically, the attention of billions of people in every country on Earth, concentrated on the same event at the same time. Economists have a term for a product that almost every person on the planet wants simultaneously. They call it a scarce global asset. The FIFA World Cup is the most scarce global attention asset in existence. 4 years of waiting, 1 month of matches, one winner. You cannot replicate it. You cannot manufacture a second one. You cannot increase the supply. And when something that billions of people desperately want cannot be increased in supply, every single entity in the economic chain around it, the broadcasters, the sponsors, the clubs, and ultimately, the players, captures an extraordinary share of value. That is the foundation of everything that follows. To understand why footballers earn what they earn today, you have to go back to a time when they earned almost nothing. In the early decades of professional football, players were paid modest wages. Clubs made money from match ticket sales. Broadcasters paid small fees for the right to show games. And the entire economic ecosystem of football was local, limited, and relatively contained. Then two things happened in quick succession that permanently changed the economics of the game. The first was satellite and cable television. Suddenly, a football match was not just an event in a stadium. It was a product that could be delivered simultaneously to hundreds of millions of living rooms across the world. And broadcasters, who make their money by selling advertising against the audiences they deliver, immediately understood what this meant. A product watched by 100 million people simultaneously is worth an almost incomprehensible amount to an advertiser. The Premier League's first television deal in 1992 was worth approximately £305 million over 5 years. By 2022, the same rights in the UK alone were valued at approximately £5 billion per cycle. That money flows from broadcasters to clubs, and clubs, competing with each other to hire the best players who attract the largest audiences, pass that money directly onto the pitch. Player wages are not separate from TV rights money. Player wages are TV rights money. The salary of every elite footballer in the world is ultimately funded by the global audience watching them play. But more money flowing into football does not automatically mean more money going to the players. For most of football's history, clubs controlled players completely. When your contract expired, the club could still demand a transfer fee for you. You had no right to leave freely. You were, in the most economic sense of the word, a controlled asset, not a free agent. In 1995, a Belgian footballer named Jean-Marc Bosman took his club to the European Court of Justice and won. The ruling that followed changed the economics of football forever. The Bosman ruling established that players were free to move between clubs within the EU at the end of their contracts without transfer fees. In economic terms, it transformed players from controlled assets into free agents. And when you are a free agent with a globally scarce skill, and billions of dollars of television money are flowing into clubs competing for your services, your bargaining power is extraordinary. Wages did not just rise after 1995. They detonated. For decades, the economics of elite football were primarily a European story. The Premier League in England, La Liga in Spain, the Bundesliga in Germany. These were the markets that set wages. These were the clubs that competed for the world's best players. And then Saudi Arabia entered the room. In 2023, Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, a sovereign wealth fund managing an estimated $700 billion in assets, began deploying capital into football at a scale that European clubs simply could not compete with. Cristiano Ronaldo signed with Al Nassr in January 2023 on a deal reportedly worth over $200 million per year.
This is where the economics becomes genuinely fascinating, because this is not conventional sports spending. Al Nassr did not sign Ronaldo because the revenues of the Saudi Pro League justified his salary. They signed him because Saudi Arabia is executing a long-term national economic strategy.
Saudi Arabia earns the vast majority of its national income from oil. Its leadership has publicly committed to reducing that dependency by 2030. Part of that strategy involves positioning the country as a global destination for tourism, entertainment, and sport. When Ronaldo plays in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia gains global broadcast coverage, merchandise revenue, tourism interest, and diplomatic soft power. The salary is not a football decision. It is a national investment decision, and that distinction between market wages and strategic wages is why 6 of the top 10 highest-paid footballers in the world in 2026 either play in Saudi Arabia or had their earnings ceiling set by Saudi Arabia's willingness to pay. Here is something that surprises most people when they look at the economics of football wealth. For the very top players, the salary is not the most important number. Cristiano Ronaldo has a lifetime endorsement deal with Nike, reportedly worth over $1 billion. Lionel Messi's contract with Inter Miami is uniquely structured to include revenue sharing from Apple TV's MLS Season Pass subscriptions and Adidas jersey sales, meaning every new subscriber who joins to watch Messi play generates income for Messi personally. Kylian Mbappe, despite being only in his mid-20s, is building an investment portfolio, acquiring equity in companies before his playing career ends, treating his footballing income as startup capital for a post-football holding company. The pattern across all three is identical. The salary pays for today, the brand and the equity pay for the next 50 years. These players are not earning like athletes, they are earning like companies. And the ones who understood that earliest are now worth over $1 billion. For the first time in the history of the sport, 2 active players at the same World Cup are billionaires. That is not a sports story. That is an economic story. So let us put this all together. Every time you watch a football match on a subscription streaming service, you are contributing to the TV rights pool that funds club revenues. Every time you buy a football jersey, a portion goes to the club, which is competed for by agents, which funds player wages. Every time you click on a sponsored post from a footballer, you are generating the engagement data that justifies the next endorsement deal. The economics of football player salaries are not separate from everyday consumer behavior. You are part of the machine. The question is whether you understand how it works. Now, here is what understanding football economics actually means for how you engage with the sport. First, YouTube is an official preferred platform partner for FIFA World Cup 2026. Official match highlights, analysis, and creator content are freely available on YouTube throughout the tournament, no subscription required. Second, multiple streaming services are currently offering World Cup trial periods specifically to capture the football audience. If you were planning to subscribe anyway, timing that subscription to the World Cup trial window is the most efficient way to watch premium content at zero cost. Third, sports cashback. Several major cashback platforms have activated World Cup promotional periods, offering elevated cashback rates on sports merchandise, sports betting platforms, and streaming subscriptions specifically during the tournament window. Fourth, the jersey economy. Official national team jerseys during World Cup tournaments are priced at peak demand. Waiting 4 to 6 weeks after the tournament ends, when unsold inventory hits clearance, typically produces the same product at 40 to 60% less. The jersey does not play better because you bought it during the tournament. Cristiano Ronaldo earns $426 a minute. That number is the output of 60 years of television rights growth. 1. Landmark legal ruling. A sovereign wealth fund with a national economic agenda and the most watched sporting event on the planet, happening right now. It is not luck, it is a system. And every system, once you understand how it works, gives you an advantage over the people who do not. Next week, we are back to the grocery store, and we are going to prove with data that Black Friday is almost always a lie. If you want that research before it goes live, the newsletter is in the description. And if this changed how you watch the World Cup tonight, subscribe, because there is a lot more to decode.